Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Improved Podcast, the official podcast of Classic Studios. I am your host, Chase Collins, and I'm an aspiring screenwriter. Now, we took a break from our creative screenwriting goals to focus on a month of health and fitness for the month of January, and it's the start of the new year. Everyone's looking to get their fitness up at the start of a new year, right? But no one told me that January has 5 Mondays in it, or at least this January, and I only planned on 4 fitness episodes. So that's all you get. I do hope that's okay, and apologies if you were expecting a 5th episode. Not this year, maybe next year. If there's 5 Mondays in January again, we'll do 5 episodes of health and fitness programming. But that does beg the question of what will this episode be about? And I'm sure if you're a long-time listener, you'll be familiar with a certain short film that I wrote for a friend of mine called Dawn, and his name is Elijah. Well, this episode is going to be an update on that and how that production process is going. We sort of are documenting the process of creating a short film as 2 amateurs, 2 novices, and capturing all of our lessons learned through this podcast. So this is episode 3 in that series. If you're just tuning in, I do recommend going back and checking out those first 2 episodes so you're all caught up. There are time codes in the description if you want to jump around, skip to all the juicy bits in the podcast. But with that, what are your goals for this week? I am gonna let you all know how my goals are going at the end, so stick around to find out. All right, bye.
Improved Podcast. Improved Podcast. Improved Podcast.
Okay, sweet.
Improved
Sit down
Podcast.
here like this. We got them stuff recording. All right, man. How you been, dude?
I've been very, very interesting. I think it's been like 3 weeks since we got a final draft, or at least our first draft, which isn't going to be much different from the final.
Yeah. So I was trying to think about where we left off, like what our last meeting was about. Because I know I delivered you the first draft, and I think we went over that last time we talked, or did we not? I can't remember.
So, okay, last time we talked, you either were about to or you did deliver a first draft, and I had yet to look at it.
That's right.
And we were kind of talking about how our next meeting would be about pre-production if I needed your help on anything, which
Sure.
pre-production is actually interesting because what I have to do right now is go through the script. So you sent me a draft, and then my professor had an issue with the draft. So then you sent me an updated draft, but I also made some changes myself. So I've been like kind of making this new script of like all 3 of our changes. And I'm going to send you that final draft as well. But basically, it's the changes that I'm making are just to make filming easier. So like, there's this moment where Dax walks into the apartment and then he drops some things and then he picks them up and then he walks further and then he drops things again, right? So what I did was I just like kind of compressed that into like one segment of him just being clumsy,
Nice.
And yeah, it's just like stuff like that. Like, so essentially we have like a filming style that I want to go for. So I just like want to make sure that like everything fits within that style, and some of that will just be changing certain things in like the camera angles and or not the camera angles like the action for now.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, man. Yeah, that sounds good. I guess. Yeah, that's sweet. That sounds great. So, you have like this third draft. Is it like, I guess, would you call that like the shooting draft, or is that still down the line?
I don't know the technical name for it, but that's
Okay.
definitely like when I'm incorporating like I'm not incorporating like camera angles or anything like that because I actually have like a separate sheet. So the way I'm organizing this shoot in general right now, I'll just let you know. I mean, I still have a lot to do, but basically I have the shooting draft that we're going to be like actually using on set. We have the scene outline, so if anyone gets lost, they can just like flip through that and know kind of where we are. And then there's going to be a couple like offhands, and also like people might change their lines or like might have like additions that they want to make because like for their character, like would they say this instead of that? Like some people might have that kind of.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get a draft that's like just ready for the actors to receive, and like for to start memorizing and changing however they want. Obviously, they're gonna have to like let everyone know their changes. Um, and then we have the scene block, which I was doing this on my own, but my professor actually said this is exactly how you would do it in like Hollywood, like where you have the script and then you're breaking down everything that you need. And I was like already doing that. He's like, don't do anything else because we're gonna literally do this in the next class. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing it anyways.
Yeah.
So I got to finish that on Thursday. I think we came out with like 12 scenes. So I mean, pretty decent, especially when you consider like you can get really inefficient when filming if you don't have the right preparation. And I'm like making sure that we do. Like literally, no one else, who's made a capstone, even reached out to someone to write their film. Like I literally found that out. Like my professor was like, no one's like, because no one cares. Like, I mean, not, I wouldn't say no one cares, but it's just like I think there's like this attitude in filmmaking that it's like one man band, like you have to do everything, and I think that's the way his class is also structured. He was like, you're gonna be writing a story. The first semester is writing a story. It's like I use the first semester to like gestate those ideas, and like work with you, who was like you. I mean, you made something like so quick. I'm actually surprised at how quick you made that come out. Like I told you something, and then within a week I had something, and it's like that's just it's incredible. And like those first few meetings we were talking about it. We were talking about like, okay, this is the story. Like, how would it go? And then my professor would chime in, and it was really great. But I feel like since I've had that like kind of pulled back view, now that we're into the stuff that I really like doing, which is like the production, pre-production, that kind of stuff, I'm excited. My one concern though is that our actor for Dax has dropped out, and I don't know how to
Uh,
secure locations just yet. Yeah.
oh snap! A development. Dang, that's
Yeah.
epic. Yeah, I remember when you first pitched this to me, like over the summer. It was we have this lead actor and he's gonna do it, and he's this cool like biker gang type of dude, tattoos and stuff. Maybe that's not him, but that's was my
Okay.
impression at least. And yeah, dang, and he dropped out. Ugh, brutal.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to get people who have like some kind of network in just to see if they can help me out. I mean, also with locations because it's like some of the locations that we picked are very unique. Like especially for Rome, you don't see that kind of stuff very very often in Rome. So like you have to find the right outlet, the right connection. And I mean, one thing that so I'm working with this guy, um, Eric Lindsay. He's basically he's gonna be like the actor for Eric. No, no, not for Eric. What's the character's name?
Rodrigo or Jim?
No. The guy who's
Uh, yeah, I
uh
know who you're talking about. I forget
Ethan.
his name.
Ethan. He's playing Ethan.
E- yes, yes, yes.
He's actually written stuff for Hollywood and he has like published books. And he was telling me like when you're doing locations, like you should probably just try to stick to somewhere that or somewhere that like someone in there, so that way you're
Mm,
not like struggling and basically like what if anything happens, then who are you gonna talk to, so
right.
um but I don't know anywhere that's like the locations that we picked, so I don't
Well, yeah, definitely feel free to like change those up too. We needed like this in order to tell this scene, like I needed a backdrop. And so I just picked like nondescript office location. I think that's how I described it at one point. It was like, yeah, it
know.
could be anything. It doesn't really matter. Um,
No, I think you're kind of right there. Sorry, were you keep going?
um, no, that was about it. Yeah, just nondescript, like behind a dumpster or in an alleyway. Like it doesn't. It could be
Yeah.
anywhere. I think.
Yeah. Well, no, I think so. Like some of them, like the moment where Dax is meeting Rodrigo, like those locations might be able to be changed. And even like the location of Dax's apartment was I was like, okay, so I'm gonna carry my cat, and I'm gonna get him a thing. I'm gonna take him somewhere else, and then I realized like I could just film in my apartment. It's like perfectly fine, perfect. Like we can still manage that cinematic quality. We're shooting on FX6s, Sony FX6, I think.
Mm.
If that doesn't work out, then we're just going to use my camera, which is a Panasonic GH5, which like can still do cinematic stuff, just not like low light as good quality. But I think like it's a student film, and that's okay. Um, yeah, so like so, some locations like were changed and will need to be changed, but honestly, like yeah, the main thing is like I think where we're at with like Jim's workstation, Jim's laboratory, like okay, Jim's laboratory is going to change to like a bedroom possibly, but Jim's workstation and like the corporation, like those buildings are solid. I don't see us changing those. So it's
Sweet.
just a matter of where.
Well, that's super exciting. So we have a locked script, or soon to be locked script, essentially. So what are those next steps? You said you're gonna start doing like scene breakdowns or something like that, where you're getting like is that where you're gathering like all the set pieces you need, all the actors you'll need in the scene, what does that involve?
So I can actually pull this up now just so I can actually tell you. And this would be very different if you're like actually. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, sometimes when you switch tabs, it just. But this would be
Uh,
very different if you're actually like making a film and like you're not a first-time filmmaker, right? But from like from my assumption, this is how I would do it, and it seems like it's working pretty well. So, what I'm taking is the script that we're going to end up like shooting with. I'm going to reread that after I make all my corrections and check like how the pacing is and everything like that. I mean, you don't want to get too lost in the weeds by like overlooking it like again and again and again. But there are certain things like I just wonder if there's a way that we can make this more cinematic, and if there's something I can write into the script, then I'll do that. So once I've done that, that one is going to go to the actors where they'll make their changes and then send them back, um, and that'll be like another version. But so what I'm doing is I'm taking the scenes. So the scene, what I do to break down the scenes is I have this app called Notion, which is really cool because it's like you can put tables, you can put like all kinds of things, like just really like graphic. It's really good. And so I write down the beats, like everything that's happening in the scene, and then I write the scene number. I write the resources that we're going to need for the scene. I write the crew, whoever's going to be there. So like for scene one, we have the cameraman, we have the director, we have whoever's managing the cat, and then we have someone on sound, and then we have the actors, right? That includes the cat, and then we have the setting time. If there's any CGI that we need, which is I think this film is actually going to be much more CGI intensive than I thought. Sound effects and soundtrack. Soundtrack, we have someone on soundtrack. Sound effects, I think that's gonna be the same person, but I think we're also gonna record a lot of sounds, like just us doing things. So,
that's cool. And do you have someone like on lighting and stuff too?
no, lighting is gonna be up to the director because we're trying to keep this like really small. But honestly, like we probably could get an extra person. Like I don't think it's too hard. I mean, we're all students and people are willing to like just help out. So.
Nice. Yeah, that's something like I've been trying to get more involved with, like film and stuff like that, and I've seen like these really simple, to me they seem simple, like commercial shoots, and there's like 10 people like all surrounding these like two actors that are shooting this small scene, and then there's a guy with a boom mic and a lighting situation, and there's like a second lighting guy, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize that was so important. And then it's like, yeah, we're doing a lighting test. It's like, that's just for lighting test. It's like, wow, okay, there you go.
Was that well, yeah, I don't know anything about that. Was that like for work or was that like a
Oh, no, I wasn't involved in it. I just saw like a YouTube video of someone doing it behind the scenes of their like commercial shoot, and I was like, oh wow, that's intense.
yeah. Um yeah, I mean even when I was doing like work, like videography work, it was like we'd have literally like I was such a help to the team because it takes so long to set up equipment and move equipment, and
Right.
it's like then, I would like hook everything up, make sure everything's good, and then we have like, one person on two cameras, one person setting up the mic, which is probably me, putting the mic on the guy, and then another guy doing lighting. And it's like if we were a team, I mean, yeah, there'd be like so many of us, just to do a simple shoot. And that's just how it
Right.
works. Um, I don't remember where that question was going. I don't know if you asked a question or not.
Oh yeah, I was asking like, so we have this locked script, and what were the
Yeah.
next steps, and you sort of described like you're using an application to help outline all the resources you'll need for each of the scenes.
Right. So yeah, we have that, and then I'm doing shooting days, which is basically like which scenes can I clump into the same shooting days,
Mm.
and then I'm gonna order them in order of like this needs to happen now because some people have availability only for so long. So I'm gonna do that next, and then I'm like my vision is by this point I'll have enough like visual stuff, and enough of like a story and a script and everything to send to the guy who's going to do soundtrack. I'm gonna tell him like, I kind of want like a preliminary theme, like just work with some stuff, and then when you come up with stuff that's really good, because what we're gonna do actually, if we can, is I think we're gonna record some like motorcycle samples and send that to him to mix into the soundtrack because I think that'd be really cool.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. And now the guy, well, the lead actor, he was a motorcyclist, or he rode bikes, and now he's not. So that could change if you don't want him to be riding a bike anymore. I don't know.
So he rode bikes, but like I think illegally, man. And honestly, it wasn't going to be a concern because where we're going to get the bike is going to be from someone who does know how to ride. And if it's like winter, he's going to be covered up anyways. You won't even
Right.
notice it's a different person.
It's a different
To be honest.
person.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But
Well, that's sweet.
yeah, yeah. I'll let you know. I'll let you know how it goes. I'll let you know like everything that we're kind of doing. And I know that you kind of want to like. I mean, how much? How like how would like involved? Like how much do you want me to let you know about like how the story's going, how it's how the filming's going, like all that stuff, like.
Well, I definitely don't want to be like another cook in the kitchen. I don't want to slow you down at all because I think that would be uh detrimental to your progress. But I definitely would like to continue these tag ups like once a month or something like that. Just hey, what have you done so far? Where's the story headed? Because I think it would be cool to sort of document this process, and keep updated as well. But um, yeah, that's really what I'm thinking.
Okay. I think that makes sense, and I honestly agree because I would love to do like a behind the scenes sort of how I did it, because it's like there's going to be so much that has to get done, and I think if we document like I'm the kind of person who's like free art, free everything, like just make it all known, like just that people can like learn from it, and I feel like
Yeah.
there's such an emphasis in today's society to just make everything behind a paywall, and like I really want to like document every part of the process and then just like put that out there so people are like, oh, okay, so I mean like even though I know nothing, some people can actually learn something from what I do know, you
Hmm.
know so I think that's like really cool. I'm really excited to like get these recordings and then put them into like a video and do all that stuff, like, yeah, but
Yeah, it's
definitely.
gonna be really cool, man. I'm right there with you. That's like the whole point of this podcast is to like I don't know how to write scripts or anything like that, but I'm gonna try and that's how I got connected with you and working on the second script I've ever written now. So that's been fun and then talking to other people who also don't know what they're doing, but are all, trying to learn and figure it out and hopefully we all get better along the way.
Super cool, man. Dude, I'm just I've been so stressed out with like classes and figuring out the script and if we can shoot it and who's acting and all that stuff. We have secured is like solid, good people. You know, I trust them. I feel good relying on them. But like, man, my professor has just gone radio silent. Like it's all up to us right now, and it's like so stressful. It's so stressful having to deal with classes as well. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
I believe it. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's also like I'm glad that my parents encouraged me to do this stuff because it's like so many people have creative passions and they don't get to explore it. But I know my parents, like my mom, she's like, don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about getting a job right now. Do your film. Like that's where my mom's at, and she knows because she knows like this is gonna really help me get to the next stage. And I just wish that like this passion that I'm expressing to you right now, I wish it was shared by everyone I told this idea to. Or no, no, I wish it was shared by everyone who I wanted to work on this film with me. I wish
mm,
that our lead actor didn't quit like a month before shooting.
yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah, that's brutal, man. That sucks. So what are you gonna do? Are you just aren't there websites to find actors and stuff like that? what's that website people use?
So, okay, there might be a website, but usually people here go through Facebook,
Mm,
and you know, the only real problem there is that like I don't know how much I can pay people until I have everyone accounted for, you know? And so it's like
mm,
I can't promise anything, but at the same time, if I promise nothing, that's even less
you'll
likely
get
to
more
find someone
calls.
who you might need, you know?
Yeah. I think the website that I know of is called like Actors Access or something like
Okay.
that. I went to this little film, I don't know what it was, like panel, I guess, and someone mentioned that. They were like, yeah, if you're on Facebook and you hire someone and you list like no pay and you're shooting on location, you're probably not going to get anyone. But if you at least go through the process of, signing up with Actors Access and you're a little bit legitimized so that even if it's for no pay and it's just for an IMDb credit, like they'll be more interested and willing to do that stuff. So
Mm,
maybe that might be a place, but that could just be a US thing. Like I don't know if they even have that out in Rome.
yeah.
Um,
Um,
Another thing.
I think
Yeah,
networking is pretty big. I think I definitely need to do more networking because there are definitely like resources I could tap into.
and I feel like yeah, I don't know, that's interesting. Like how would a, a film, like let's say this, Hollywood films, right? They have a set budget
Mm,
and then they break down from there, right? So I don't
mhm.
know if you just scale that back if the same principles apply, or I don't know. I've never had to like break down a budget for a film before. It sounds like a tough problem.
Um, I think budget is pretty solid. I don't think budget ever really changes. And I think they have a number and then they estimate who to hire before they do any hiring so that they can work within that budget. And so, yeah, maybe I can do that. Maybe I need a budget. Like, honestly, it might not be a bad idea.
It
Also,
might.
I want to share with you a really cool thing that we're coming up with here. But yeah, tell me,
Please.
tell me.
No, yeah, I was just gonna say it might help. So you can give those concrete numbers to actors, or you can for sure say it's gonna be no pay. Just whatever.
Yeah.
But go ahead. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
So, we're using this filming technique, which was used in the original Hunger Games. So I really like that movie, but not only for the story, also for like the cinematography, because basically what they did was they used a lot of montage and really close-up shots and like really
Mm.
panicky handheld camera movements, and like for establishing shots, they use a medium shot. What is that? That's amazing. I love that. So yeah, like we're kind of using that. So for this one scene where we have rain, thinking, well, how do we do this? Well, let's think about it, right? Our camera's already going to be punched in to the character, so we don't necessarily need like rain. So here's my MacGyvered thinking, right? If I can take an HDRI, right? So like it's basically like maybe 32 pictures in like a circle. You're essentially just taking like you're getting it like a ball, right? And you're inside the ball, but the ball is essentially like all of your surroundings. You know?
Mm. Oh, okay. Like
Right.
that's for gathering like light data, right?
Right. Yeah. So if we
Yeah.
do an HDRI, right, and then set up planes inside a blender on like glass, for example, we could add raindrops to the glass, and then like we could also just like literally wet the scene, and then we could like put maybe like camera like water droplets like on the camera, like physically put them on the camera, and then just make the main character like just drenched. And it's like
Mhm.
just like this total like hack way of like making simulating rain. So wait, if it doesn't rain, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm just like I love that I thought of that. I love that I'm like ready to do that, and like yeah, this film's gonna have so much more CGI than I thought, but like I'm just really excited to get to work and like solving these problems. That's so cool.
Yeah, that's really awesome, man. That's really creative. And you're coming up with like those backup plans, right? Like if
Mhm.
just in case,
Yeah.
you can't get rain on the set, right? Not like you have control over that. But no, that's really cool. There's this quote, I forget who it's from, but he was talking about a director Oh, I think it
Hmm.
was Jonah Hill, and he was talking about maybe Martin Scorsese, some director. I have no idea. But he was talking about how like the best directors are problem solvers, and they're solving like a million problems a second, and they're just trying to make everything work on the day of shooting. And I can really see that from what you're
I
describing.
love that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was wild.
Well, I mean, it also stems from like who I am, but also like being an artist. Like being an artist is constantly problem solving. You're constantly in a position where, you're kind of trying to be vulnerable here, and in order to progress as an artist, you have to make yourself vulnerable. It's not easy, and so you have to learn how to problem solve. I mean, that's literally like one of the number one traits as being an artist. So I definitely think they go hand in hand, and I'm glad to know that like if there's someone that's gonna do it, like it's gonna be me. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's something that, oh man, well, that's something that I've really, like, I'm doing all of this stuff, right? Like, company and podcast and, script
Mhm.
writing and all that. It's like I enjoy it all being on me because
Yeah.
then it's like if it fails, it's like, yeah, that's on me, man. Like I failed. That's my
Mhm.
fault, and I can own that because I can also justify why I failed in some, roundabout way. But at the end of the day, it's like, no, I messed up, and it's time to like get back in gear, get back in check, or figure it out. Um, and it's like liberating in a way, and also it applies some pressure. But I'm a control freak, and like I structure my life so that I'm successful, and that
Mhm.
the problems I encounter are minimized because I do so much structuring and pre-planning. Oh man, we'll see. It's so funny to me when you mentioned like there's going to be a lot more CGI in this than expected. It's like I didn't know what scenes you were talking about that
Right.
needed like extra CGI, and then you threw it at me like, oh yeah, I'm gonna CGI the rain. I was like, oh my god, okay.
Yeah. Well, also like I want to do like some label changes, and I kind of want to make all of the labels ever present in the scene just like some Japanese or Chinese knockoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like
Why
literally
is that?
like just to like give us this idea, because also with the soundtrack it's going to be very unusual, so like just to give us the idea that like this isn't our reality, it's like slightly different, you know
Um,
and like we also have a scene where he's arriving at this corporate building, and you pan up and you see, so also okay, Rome's architecture is very interesting, but it's also not very tall. So what I'm planning on doing is using the advantage of like the tight shots to make buildings look so much taller. But then
nice.
I want to like for that scene where he looks up and it's a skyscraper, I really want to like extend that building. So they're just like things like that that just like elevate,
Oh,
the
dude. That's
process.
sick.
Yeah.
Man, I think that's so cool. Well, a couple of things. Uh, I've always heard like if you can try and do stuff practically, try.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you can find like some foreign like convenience store. They have them in America. I don't know if they have them
Mhm.
in Rome,
Oh,
but
they have them all
where you
over
can
here.
find like, foreign language stuff and like do it in, practically. That's
Mhm.
one thought. Another thought is like if you do, the panning up and warping the image, I think that would play really well with like Dax, sort of off the hinges mentality. I think that really ties in with like the theme.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really cool. I'm just imagining like a fisheye. Oh, sorry, I bumped the mic. But I'm just imagining like a fisheye lens on Dax,
Mm.
just like with the rain, and he's just like, "Where am I smoking a cigarette?" That's so funny.
Okay, so you're saying like kind of like this shot where it looks like the buildings are like encroaching in on him, essentially. He's like
Yeah,
looking up and he sees like it's like caving in on him almost.
and he's like
Huh.
twitching and just like, oh my gosh, like where am I? I gotta drop this package off.
Hmm. I know what you're talking about. Like I've definitely seen it. Um I don't think that fits the style of this story, but
Yeah,
like I would love to
definitely not.
experiment with that. I would love to experiment with that. Yeah.
But
But
that's so
I also
sweet,
like
man.
love the idea of like the camera, like this in an impossible budget, like the camera is just like crawling up this building, and you just see Dax like looking up, smoking,
Hmm.
and then you see these buildings like just keep going and keep like caving in, getting closer to the center, and he's just this small ant. Oh, that would be so
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, man, you get like a drone shot or something and it like oh,
Yeah.
and it does the classic Spielberg like what's the shot called where you zoom in and telescope out at the same time and
God,
it's like
I know what you're talking about. That's the dolly zoom.
the dolly zoom
Yeah.
it's like that. I don't know. I've done some of that when I was man. I shot some music videos for this band that I was producing for Fat Stanley, and
Mm.
I did some artificial those like in post production where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do my dolly zoom or I'm gonna do my dolly out, and then I'm gonna
Mhm.
zoom in post, and I was able to sort of like fake the effect. Like I didn't do it practically, but I was able to do it
Oh,
in
but
post, and that
it's
was
cool though. It's cool.
yeah.
Um, One thing I learned is actually a really big skill is the focus pull. So you plan
Mm,
your shoot so that way when someone changes like their position and they're like still in focus or like someone changes and then something else is in focus, like you basically have marks on the camera so you know like where you need to turn it. Like there's just so much that
yeah.
goes into filmmaking and it's amazing. Like it's awesome.
Yeah. It's so cool. I love when like they go to that extra effort of like, a character's talking in the foreground and then the character in the background responds and then they change the zoom to actually
Insanity.
talk to them. It's like, "Oh, that's thank you. I appreciate that."
Insanity in the kindest way possible. I don't remember where I saw this, but like it was basically oh yeah, it was this video breaking down how concept art works or whatever. But the guy was like, yeah, if you like if you describe something as like insane, it's usually because it's just like it requires such a level of like ingenious and like just creativity and constant repetition to like know these tricks that it looks like
Yeah.
insanity. Like how could you ever come up with that? It's like yeah.
That's what I think of. I think um the gosh, the Lord of the Rings film. Who was that director? Jackson, Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
He did that like 1,000 times over. It is so crazy with all those, paintings and like the perspectives. Like the ring, when they were doing close-ups on the ring, it was like 15 feet large. They created a 15-foot large ring so that it could be giant compared to these hobbits. It was like, are you kidding me?
Wow.
And then they had, those crazy scenes with Ian McKellen as Gandalf talking to Frodo, and
Mhm.
they're on tables talking to each other, but they're like
Oh
actually
yeah.
50 feet apart, and they have to like moving set, and it's crazy, man. You should,
Yeah.
for anyone who's listening and hasn't seen the behind the scenes of the making of those films, like it's insane. And then you like juxtapose that with how they shot The Hobbit, and it's just like, wow, they didn't do the same thing. And that's why those
Yeah.
movies are drastically different in quality. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's like a whole thing of like do it in CGI or not. Which
Yeah.
for me personally, I really like the idea of using CGI just to heighten things just a little bit, but not really necessarily like unless it's that type of story like Blade Runner, you need all the CGI you can get. But at the same
Mm.
time, a lot of Blade Runner was shot practically. A lot of like there was a lot of really cool stuff there that was just actually physically there. And I think like it's like if I were to be in a position where this is never going to happen, but if I were to be in a position where I was like making something and had like a really high budget, it would always be this marriage between practical and CGI. And I think that's like a lesson that all of Hollywood is learning right now. I don't know of any films that are just CGI and look just terrible and fake. I feel like all films have started to adapt like this meshing of the two mediums, which is really good. For example, Mandalorian, and they're like giant LED screens,
Yeah.
in Unreal Engine 5. Like that's that's kind of dope. Like it's kind of like it's a really energy inefficient way of making something, but it works. It's live. It works good.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and a brand new technology, right? So we haven't really even seen like how far they can take that. I think the Batman, they use that same filming style,
Yeah.
and they really push the envelope. Like I think they even did that during the Batmobile scenes, like when they're doing the chase sequences. They use those same LED screens like lighting
Okay.
the whole shot, and it's like that's crazy. You got Robert Pattinson just like and then these LED screens, and the car is on like a mount, so it's like moving, and the background's with it. It's crazy. It's really
Yeah,
impressive how they did that. And Christopher Nolan, he said that Dune was actually like the best merging of practical and visual effects that he's ever seen, which I thought
mm.
was interesting.
The
Like I
the
didn't,
recent one.
yeah, the recent one, like I didn't even think it had that many CGI effects, and that is probably why he thought it was the best because you didn't even notice it, like because
That's kind of the movie that was like for me was like, damn, like I should really start taking the CGI thing more seriously because it's getting good. Like it
yeah,
looks so real right now. Like
it's crazy. It looks really good. And then but like also like you could even push back on that with like these Marvel movies where sometimes it's like,
mm,
does that look great? Like, everyone likes to clown Black Widow and how like they just threw some people up on a sound stage and the lighting's all wrong with these
She-Hulk.
explosions and stuff. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and She-Hulk, one of the it I think She-Hulk looks pretty bad. Like I'm not even a guy to complain about special effects and stuff. Like I just want to watch the story and, just enjoy it. But when it starts taking you out of the movie or the show, it's like, "Oh no. Why? Why do you look like this? This is so wrong."
There's definitely a reason that a company like Disney can't spend a few more extra dollars to like make their CGI look decent or to even spend any time on color.
That's
Um,
what I think it is. I think it's the time, right? Like they obviously have the budget, but the time they're not giving to the artist, the CGI
yeah.
artist, is just not enough. That's what it comes across as, I
It
think.
might be that. I mean, crunch is a really bad thing. Like just working under a tight deadline is a really bad thing, and like most CG like teams, a lot of times it's just working on like a project really intensely and then just moving on to the next one. But I mean, I don't know if you're tapped into this. Like, do you know what the deal is with like all these streaming services and like having these seasons that are like 6 episodes, 8 episodes long? Like, it's like a season you wait for and you're really excited about it, and then you get it like a year later, 2 years later, and it's like 8 episodes, and like the CGI
Yeah.
sucks. Like what is happening right now in Hollywood, man? They're just ugh.
Yeah. I don't know. I think like part of it is ramifications of the pandemic. Like I
Mhm.
think a lot of the sins of like Black Widow and even She-Hulk to an extent, but especially like some of those early Marvel TV shows like WandaVision, those definitely got hit by the pandemic. Whereas like, yeah, we had plans and then we have to change the story because we can't get actors to film because they're in quarantine or whatever, and that I think definitely affected like the CGI quality of the films. But in terms of like the shorter and shorter seasons, I don't know if that's just a budget thing. Like, you know, they're just spending like 10, $20 million an episode, and suddenly like their 10 episode season costs like $100 million or $150 million. And that's like, okay, that's a feature length film, but you're getting 10 hours worth of content out of it. I don't know. So I think it might be like a money thing. It's like, well, we can't do 16 episode seasons because then your budget's going to be cut in half and you'll have 5 million an episode.
Mm, mm.
But and like when these actors get famous off of these shows, like now they're getting paid like, millions of dollars an episode, and that's like
Yeah.
a percentage of your budget, like a solid, 5-10% of your budget. It's like,
Mhm.
now there's a lot of your money that you could be spending on CGI.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess that's why I'm so motivated to like do my own thing on like an indie scale. Because it's like budget's always going to be an issue, but when you're working with passion, I mean, people are so willing to just give, so willing to just give out and help, and everyone wants to be a part of it, and if you and it's clear there's some like YouTube channels like I mean Corridor, you know about them, like they
Oh
just
yeah.
talk about like they just talk about the VFX process, and it's like that channel's so popular, and it's because like there is a real art form here, and it's just about finding the right passion and finding the right people, and like yes, you can't eat passion, but at the same time, like if you find yourself in a position where whoever's in charge has enough money to support themselves, and then they're trying to tap into the resources of like just this wealth of knowledge with the like everyone around them, I mean, it might not be at the same quality, but you might get something even better, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like
Yeah.
that's what I'm all about. Like that's what I want to do. I want to find a way to sustain myself and also just do these low budget like indie things that are just really cool.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think that's awesome, man. I think that's definitely possible too. Like especially if you get the right people around you
mhm.
and who are passionate just like you are. And man, like becoming that beacon, right? Like everyone's trying to find people to like work with or feed off of. But if you can be the person and like tie in the people you want to work with, I think that's one of the ways to do it. But also like being able to help people too, because I bet there's probably more people that want to be the beacon than there are people who are like looking for light. I don't know
Ah,
how you
you're
do that.
probably right about that. It might even be like a whole new angle for me. Huh.
Like,
Okay.
what are you gonna try and help people, or are you gonna try and be the beacon?
Yeah,
Which
no, I
angle?
mean, well, definitely going for the beacon there, but I'm saying like it might also be good to just offer services sometimes and just be helpful. Like how do they know that your project is the best, right? Or
Yeah,
that your project is the most worth working on? Like what are you doing to spread the joy? So,
yeah, yeah.
huh.
That's something I want. Like, I want to get involved with the Florida film scene,
Mm.
but I'm a writer, right? So it's like I can't say like, hey, let me be a part of crew and I'll do some like boom mic holding or do some help with lighting. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I could write your script for you. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to work with you. Is like, yeah, man, I don't know how to write scripts, but I'll try and I'll work with you. And I think it's turned out pretty well. And it'd be cool to do that on like a local level, so I can be there, like a part of the process, and make more connections and stuff. I don't know. It's
I mean,
just what
it's
I'm
so
thinking.
cool that for someone who doesn't know how to write a script, you did a really good job. Like,
Thanks, man.
yeah, I mean, yeah.
We're
Like
we're
you got the
working it.
formatting down, you know. Um, Also, there's the fact that like we just had so much to cram into like just a small time window, and you really made it work, and you made it like because I even told you like I don't want these characters to have arcs. Okay, I just want this to be like a day in their lives, like the craziest day of their lives. What does that look like? And you're just
Yeah,
like, all right, here it goes.
yeah. And I feel like we were still able to. That's the writer in me, right? Still, I still want to lay those arcs. And the 3 act structure and stuff. Oh, and you mentioned earlier like 12. You found 12 scenes. That's exactly what I have. I have 12 scenes in my broken out in my uh, screenwriting software. So you nailed it. It's pretty cool, I thought.
Yeah, yeah. All right, man. Well, hey, it's like 12 here, so I need to go to bed.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what time it was, man. Yeah, let's call it quits, dude. I am super excited for the next steps. What are the next steps? I think you probably said it, but can you say it one more time?
Okay, so the next steps are getting some cans of Red Bull, or just getting Red Bull, um,
Yeah, right.
and just doing a final script revision, doing a reread, sending those out to the actors, doing a scene block out, refining the scene block out, and then kind of chunking the shooting days together. So which scenes we can film on what days, and doing them in order of priority, sending all of the visual stuff and all of the pre-production information to our soundtrack guy to come up with a theme, and securing locations and actors. And that's all that I'm going to be doing for the next week. So
Well, that's awesome, man. That sounds like you got your hands full for sure. Let me know how I can help, or if there's anything you want me
for
to,
sure.
I don't know, bounce ideas off of. Even if you want to do it like off the podcast, man. Just like, hey, I'm going crazy. I need to talk to someone. Like, I'm here for you,
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Thank you. I appreciate that. Really
for
do.
sure. All right, I'm gonna stop this recording. Everyone say bye to Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Whoa, hello everybody. I hope you enjoyed that episode of the Improved Podcast with my friend Elijah. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for this movie. I hope you are getting excited as well. I mentioned in the podcast that I've gotten to see Elijah, grow so much throughout this filmmaking progress, and I just have to highlight that again because it's so true. He's grown and developed in so many ways, from originally like not wanting to even produce this movie to now being, neck deep in pre-production. And spoiler alert, spoiler alert, it only gets better from here. We've recorded, several episodes since this was recorded, and let's just say Elijah was able to do nothing less than phenomenal work. I'm so excited for you all to hear those episodes, and once I figure out the schedule for these next couple of weeks, you will be blessed with some of that behind-the-scenes content, and hopefully someday we'll get to see this movie together. We'll do like a watch party or something like that. As far as an update from me in terms of goals and progress and improving and stuff like that, I've been making some good progress and work on my script, Mary Lee Barber. I'm into Act 2, and I've sort of just about to hit some juicy bits of the story. So I'm very excited for that. I think I'm on track to finish this thing up in March. So very, very good. I hope your goals and work is all going well as well. If you want to get in contact with me about goals or projects you're working on, shoot me an email at theimprovedpodcast@gmail.com. I want to give a shout out to Green Bean for all of our musical intros and outros. I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for leaving a 5-star review. And with that, I'll catch you all later.